For our next story, let me pull up two sets of pictures for you. Both are from the same location, Doha. Two sets of photos. One shows Antony Blinken meeting the Prime Minister of Qatar. The second shows the chief of Hamas meeting Iran's foreign minister. Same city, sworn enemies, just hours apart. It sums up the role of Qatar. They instigate and then try to resolve. We have mentioned some of this before. Qatar hosts the top leadership of Hamas, including their current chief. They've also hosted the Taliban and the Muslim Brotherhood. They've been accused of funding Al-Qaeda. Yet Qatar is a Western darling. Last year, the US declared them a major non-NATO ally. Even Israel gives them a long rope. They permit Qatar to send aid to Gaza, the same aid that is often swindled by Hamas terrorists. So what's the play here? Why is Qatar handled with kid gloves? The answer lies in history. In the 1990s, the US and Saudi Arabia had shaky relations. The kingdom did not want American soldiers. The kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they did not want American soldiers. So where did they go? Qatar. The regime in Doha gave US soldiers a new home. They set up shop at the Al Udeid military base. Even today, it's the forward headquarters of the US Central Command. So the equation is quite simple. America keeps Qatar's ruling family in power. In return, they help America keep their army here. 2 decades on, that has not changed. But Qatar has another side as well. An ambitious and power-hungry side. We're talking about a very small country, remember. Its total area is around 11,000 square kilometers, about the size of India's Tripura state. And population, just about 2.7 million people. Their GDP is just 1/4 of Saudi Arabia, so Qatar looked elsewhere for power. One strategy was Al Jazeera, the television channel based in Doha. On paper, it has editorial freedom from the Qatari regime. But accusations do emerge. Al Jazeera is said to be soft on Islamist elements in West Asia, Hamas included. The other strategy was to host and leverage Islamists. In 2013, the Muslim Brotherhood was expelled from Egypt. And who welcomed them? Qatar. Same with the Taliban. Doha says it is keeping an eye on these radicals, making sure that they're not up to some trouble. Well, if that's the case, how did Hamas plot such a massive attack? How did the Taliban take over Afghanistan? So Qatar's intentions are suspect. They've used terrorists to keep bigger Arabs in check, bigger Arab states in check. It's a policy that left Qatar isolated. Remember, in 2017, the Arab states cut off diplomatic ties with Doha. They imposed a financial blockade as well. And the reason was this: Qatar's support for terrorism. The blockade lasted for 4 years. It was finally lifted in 2021. So I guess in the long term, the strategy worked. One reason for that is American support. Think of Qatar as Washington's shady friend. They talk to people the Americans cannot, like the Taliban, like the Hamas. In 2021, they brokered the deal between the US and the Taliban. This month, they negotiated a deal between Ukraine and Russia. Moscow agreed to release 4 Ukrainian children. And now they're mediating between Israel and Hamas, trying to get the hostages released. So Qatar has become the go-to mediator. Just one problem, though. They actively support these same groups. Consider the Hamas. Qatar gives them millions of dollars every year. Most of it is disguised as aid money. They also allow Hamas leaders to stay in Doha. Fun fact, their hotels are just minutes away from the Al Udeid base, from the US Central Command. It tells you how solid their position is. When Hamas attacked Israel, they did not condemn the attack. Qatar did not condemn the attack. In fact, they blamed Israel. Doha said Israel is, quote-unquote, solely responsible for this escalation. Yet that same Doha is now mediating for Israel.
The state of Qatar's diplomatic priorities and movements are to seek an immediate ceasefire, protect civilians, release prisoners, and work to limit the expansion of violence and conflict in the region, which will have serious consequences if it expands.
It's a neat strategy, also a dangerous and cruel one. Qatar effectively uses terror sponsorship as state policy. It gives them a seat at the high table of diplomacy. It has also made them a darling of the West. But we've seen how terror groups work. It's never long before they strike the hand feeding them.